afar, never knowing who you are. I'd follow you from afar, like trails after stars. I yearn for the far inside, for love to burn our lies. I yearn for the far inside, for the flame that never dies. Desire can break my chains, the bonds that bind our pain. Desire can break my chains, I'd love you again and again. I yearn for the fire inside, for love to burn our lives. I yearn for the fire inside, for the flame that never dies. I yearn for the fire inside, for love to burn our lives. I yearn for the fire inside, for the flame that never dies. Follow you from afar, never knowing who you are. I'd follow you from afar, like trails after stars. I yearn for the fire inside, for love to burn our lives. I yearn for the fire inside, and the flame that never dies. I yearn for the fire inside, for love to burn our lives. I yearn for the fire inside, for the flame that never dies.
Yeah. Is it working? Yeah, it's working. Okay. It's got... Okay, so here it is. It's recording. Okay. Ah. Don't worry, I won't be cut. I had to put it on the tree, so it's going to wobble. I'm wobbling. Welcome to my channel. This is my first time I'm talking. And I don't mind the t-shirt, just for today. Just the one time. Okay, thank you for joining my channel. And what's that word again? I'm not very good with that word. Subscribe. Yeah, thanks for joining us. And there's over the months. I've got more and more people, maybe more. So here I am in Sydney, yes. And this is where you could say some of the stuff began. I didn't wear my AC/DC shirt, sorry, no AC/DC today. No, maybe another day, maybe. Okay, I've got a few things to say. So number one, thank you for joining this channel. And secondly, I couldn't sit on the steps of the Opera House because they've got some special event on, so it's ridiculous. I can't even sit there. They won't let me sit down. You know, they're all looking at me like this. Oh, I'm the security guard. So, you know, I can't do anything, you know, just sort of standing around like looking like gung-ho King Lears or whatever they are. You know, when you have all these security people around, they're just minding the place, so I can't do anything. I don't want to be taken away for no silly reason. So I'm here. I'm at the park, which is just and the Opera House and that big coat hanger. They call it the coat hanger, or the bridge. Sydney Bridge is right over there, so it's just all over there. Coming up on the channel, just want to let you know, coming up on the channel will be some more rock shows, and so it's going to please, number one, the rock fans, number two, the shortwave radio enthusiasts, or maybe the radio hams, I don't know, the people that like to listen to the radio from overseas. So that's going to interest the two of you, I think. So if you like rock music and you like listening to broadcasts from shortwave, then welcome to the channel. And I've also got coming up something I haven't done for a long time, and that's bringing back the comedy, the UK comedy. Now the UK comedy, I do have some old VHS tapes that are really old lying around, and somehow I've got them, and Freddie Starr's on some of them, so I've got to go into those tapes and look. Tapes. So somehow I've got to look for the tapes. And then the other thing is, the other thing I wanted to mention are some famous people that have come here from the UK, that have lived here, either lived here or are living here, or have visited here, and I'm gonna do some little, maybe little live YouTube things or something like that, so you can actually see me walking I'll give you an example actually, because I had a couple of interests in Tony Handcock and Love Thy Neighbour, the two Ronnies, which were they all were recorded in certain areas around Sydney, and I'm gonna walk around one day and actually find these places so I can show you what they looked like then and what they look like today. So I want to show you, and my first one I want to do, the first broadcast to YouTube. I don't think anyone's done this yet, and it'll be a good thing, because I've seen a few videos in the UK where people are walking along the street, and I'm a big Carry On fan, you know, the Carry On films, and someone's walking along the street and they did a 5-minute YouTube video, and he says, "Oh, where did
Charles Hawtrey?"
And they said, "Oh, over in that house over there," and so he's recording the house. I'm not sure if there's a plaque on it, but I think there may have been. So I'm going to do things like that, and you know, just liven it up in Sydney a little bit and show you a couple of things. So so I haven't gone away from the comedy. I haven't gone completely away from the comedy. It's going to come back in some form or another. So you will see some comedy shows here and there, and you will see.
Also, the rock shows are coming back. I'll tell you about that in a minute.
But it's just basically I want to get from one subject to another, and if one thing doesn't work, I'll try something else. But I really want to try and put as much in as I can on this channel so everyone can enjoy it. Try anyway. You can only try today, can't you? Yeah. I wanted to make a small tribute to Derek Acorah, who passed away 2020, and that was January this month actually, a few years ago. Of course, I was a fan of his, watching Most Haunted, and Ghost Towns was a favourite. So for those that didn't see those shows, they were like reality shows where Derek Acorah and the team and the Most Haunted team from the UK would go around to certain areas that are basically haunted, and they stay in the place overnight and that sort of thing. I'm not going to do that, although in Sydney I've met some people that, in particular a bus driver, wanted me to join the group to do all these things, and I said no. So I did turn it down. That's years ago now, 2014. I would have done something like that. But at that time there was a lot going on, so I couldn't do it, and I didn't. So in a way, I'm happy not doing it. But what I will do though is take you around some of the places that Derek Acorah did go to, and one of them I know was a really old pub. It's the oldest pub I think in Australia, I'm pretty sure. And it was there's certain things that Derek had picked up on, and I'll go through those things and talk to you about it. But I'll go there during the day. I'll be there in the daytime and show you these things, and the actual pub where he went to, and I'll take a visit to the rocks as well, and I'll show you a few things around there that you might be interested in to have a look. You know, I might get some requests to have a look at some things. So there's a few things that I can show you in Sydney, and have like a small kind of a documentary type of thing. So there's places like the one video I was going to make, a 20-minute video. It's very short, and it's going to be like a premiere type of thing. So it's my first show. So that will be like showing you that Most Haunted pub in Sydney. There's a particular area in Newcastle that I would want to talk about as well, and I even had to know my own experience there as well, so I can talk to you about that one, and I'll show you around those areas. And the other place was a particular tunnel, which used to be, it's a disused tunnel now, in the south part of Sydney, which is not used anymore. I think a lot of people do know about that one, and some areas down the south area as well, where there's a particular person that pops up from time to time in a certain area and at a certain time of year, and that's going back, I think, in the 1930s. So whatever's happening, I'll see if I can put it in a video, 20 minutes, with the soundtrack, which I had borrowed from a band, and they said that, oh, you can put this music on there, you can use it, and I really have to thank them, and I'll talk to you more about them later. So I'll put some music and things and stuff. That's coming up on this channel. And the other thing I was going to do was, so I wanted to talk about the UK rock scene from the mid to late 80s, and then 90s scene, which I experienced in Sydney as I emigrated late 80s, and then I had the experience of the early 90s scene when rock and the heavy metal scene was still there and the alternative rock was around, and the new Seattle sound bands started to come on the scene in the early 90s. I'm talking about Nirvana and those type of bands. So, and unfortunately, I missed seeing them, but I did see some other bands from that time. So that's another experience I have. So I will talk about those things from the mid to late 80s, in the UK, and early 90s in Sydney. And so I will go through that and talk about those things with you, and you can share those experiences as well. I mean, you can comment and stuff like that. Good comments, by the way. Good comments. Yeah, and it's windy. Oh yes, someone's pushed the buttons. I heard someone's in Sydney today, so they pushed the buttons on him. Yeah, okay. So anyway, that's pretty much about it really. So these are the things that I want to bring to the channel. As I said, don't mind the t-shirt. Yes, I'm a fan of Iron Maiden. There's certain things I agree on with Iron Maiden, certain things I don't agree on, but yeah, I'll talk about that later on. that's something else. Yeah, just basic. This is basic. Coming up on March the 6th, I've got Rock Salad on a Friday night with Tommy Vance. As you know, Tommy Vance left us many years ago in the UK, and I happen to have some recordings of his shows that I followed over the years since I was a kid. Started when I was around about 13 years of age, and I happened to tune into one of his shows, and I think it was by accident. So you know, sometimes I used to follow some pirate radio stations, or you know, listen to his local rock show from the UK. And he never mentioned anything about this other show, but I did happen to catch some other UK radio DJs on the World Service in the UK in the early 80s. So Tommy Vance was one of them, and in the early 80s I found a show called Rock Salad, which a lot of people around the world do know, and it's been forgotten over the years. Sadly, it's been forgotten over the years, and there's other shows that are out there, but it's nothing just like this show. And he had a worldwide request show, playing music to the people overseas. I had an experience actually, because when I was 14 I requested a song by UFO, and that could have been the time of my birthday, I really don't remember, and I asked him to play it for the people, for the rock audience around the world. When I sent that, and I did send that letter in to BBC Bush House in London, I still remember the address, I'm writing it and everything, just a brief letter, and I think it would have been about a month later I got a letter back in the mail. You know, this is from the producer of the show, Rock Salad, and they basically said, oh look, we don't play requests for people that live in the UK, because it's a show for so I remember that letter, and I just remember tearing it up. But anyway, that was my experience of sending requests in, and I thought, oh well, I can't get a request on the show because I live in the UK anyway.
So I never did write or do anything again.
And I suppose the people that are lucky that lived in the UK and went on an overseas holiday, they did get a request in. So those people are lucky that got the request in. and it's only a 30-minute show, but if you got a request in that show, that's a good thing, you know. And they play some good music. There's some really good stuff on those shows. The shows that I just listen to over and over again, over and over again. It's just good to hear it, and good to hear his voice. It's as if, to me, it's as if he's still here. So it just kept me going over the years, just listening to his shows. Even those early recordings that I put there already, I think 3 or 4 of them, it's just, even though I didn't record his voice then, it was just the music that I was trying to concentrate on, record those, so that, you know, at those ages, when you're 10, 11, 12 years old, you don't have the money for records, you don't have the money to go out and buy anything, you just want to record it because you've got a tape deck or something like that, and those were the good old days where you can record all the stuff from the radio, record all your favourite songs. And I had, you know, I'm sure everybody's got some memorable experiences from recording all these different things. When I left I wasn't a big shortwave listener until early 90s, until I left the UK and I purchased my first Sony radio, which was a proper shortwave radio. You can find all the overseas stations then,
like all the international stations from Japan. You know, you have Radio Australia, you have of course the BBC World Service, you got Radio Moscow, Radio Netherlands, Radio Sweden International.
All the favourites were there, and you can listen to them all. Unfortunately, a lot of them are just disappeared now because everything's gone digital. But what I'll do is look out for the rock shows. It's Tommy Vance Rock Salad, coming soon to you, and it's the best in rock music. I can't say anything more than that. It's just it's going to take you. It's going to take your mind away from everything else. So it will be a good thing. And bringing back the voice of Tommy Vance, which I'm sure you all miss. And it's I'm pretty sure it's something that someone hasn't listened to it for a long time. And these recordings probably haven't been heard since they were on the air. As far as I know, I have these recordings, and I don't know anyone else that does. And you know, you can ask others, but as far as I know, there's probably 1 or 2 recordings out there of Rock Salad or another rock show that Tommy Vance did in the late 90s. So this one's going to be good, and you're going to enjoy it. And not all of them were recorded on the shortwave. Some of them were recorded after shortwave, some of them were recorded on medium wave, and then some were recorded on the satellite FM frequencies here in Sydney. So that I'll explain to you later on. I can explain it to you now. So the early 90s, it was the World Service from BBC on 648 kilohertz, which is gone now. That's disappeared off the face of the earth. Now, of course, digital like everything else. So it was on 648 medium wave from, and I picked that up from about 1983 to 1987, 86, 87. And I think one of the last ones was the Phil Lynott tribute, when they did the Phil Lynott tribute, Thin Lizzy. And I do remember that, and of course you can listen to that anytime after you click one of the buttons. And following on from that, I missed a few years of the Friday Rock Show because I was still trying to find my roots in Sydney, understand Sydney a little bit more, and the rock scene and everything else. and early 90s, that's when I picked up the shortwave radio. I was, of course, trying to keep in touch with the UK. So the only way I could do that really was so I'd tune into BBC World Service and listen to. They had the top 40, the latest top 40, and they also had Rock Salad around that time. And to find the times is really difficult to actually know when the shows come on. And the way I found out was, I think in the late 80s, I wrote to the BBC and I got one of those magazines that gives you the schedules, of when the top 40 music and the Rock Salad was on, and it's very rare that it was on. And sometimes I think I ever saw it. I think I've only seen it once in that magazine. I think I've seen it once, and after that I didn't know when it was going to come on, so I have to keep listening, and that was the hardest thing, because you don't have the technology that we do have today, like mobile phones and the internet. You can just scroll on the internet and find out when it's going to be on, or do a search or something. And it was different in those days. No phones, no nothing. So on the 6th of March, I want to take you back to 1990. Two separate dates in 1990 of the series Rock Salad that were broadcast on the shortwave band. So I remember looking at the frequencies around the world that you can pick up all these different radio stations, and you just need to look up in the books it's like an encyclopedia thing, the World Radio and TV Handbook. And at that time I bought that around 1990, I think, and so that I can go through that, some of those things with you without boring anybody. Yeah, so that's just a hobby, radio was a hobby since I was a kid, so yeah, that's now you know. So when the BBC did broadcast, they were coming out from Luxembourg, I think Junglista, something like that, and it was direct from there. And there was also another frequency that they were on that I'd always tune into, and I'll never get these frequencies out of my head. So the main one would be 9740 kilohertz on shortwave band, and then the other one would be 15070 on kilohertz, and that's so two frequencies. Sometimes they'll be on, I think it's 11855, something like that, kilohertz. It's just my memory is not the best, but I do remember 9740 and 15070 were the main ones that I'd pick up, BBC World. And when you listen to these broadcasts that are coming, and I'm putting these out for a reason. I'm putting these out for a reason because on the 6th of March, that's when I started the Tommy Vance website. I did open that one 2015, and that was like to mark something like 10 years after the anniversary of his death. And so on the 6th of March this year, 2023, you will hear two Rock Salads. I'm going to try and put two together so you can have a listen to them, and also the people that like to listen to shortwave, the radio enthusiasts, can have a listen to that too. So you can have one set of fans that are the rock fans that want to listen to the music and grab that music. You can hear it, and you can hear it again and again, anytime you want, which is good, because Tommy Vance was actually really detailed and informative about the bands, and this is what the international audience wanted to hear. They wanted to hear what type of bands they were, and about the members of the bands, and that type of thing. They wanted to hear all those things, you see. So that's something that that's something that's really good about Rock Salad, and something that something to look forward to when it comes. So that will be coming up on the 6th of March, and I think that will be a Friday night. I'll make it a Friday night anyway, so it'll be a Friday night rock show for you. So don't worry, that will be coming early March. So the first 2 rock shows, and they'll be coming from 1990, and they will be the first 2 that I picked up when I first came to the country. Although I did hear some other ones, some other early ones in 1990, which I just listened to, and I thought, oh yeah, I've got to record them. I've got to record these other ones because they'll be good memories. I remember one of the first ones I heard when I came to Australia, the first episode. People will remember this. You probably remember going back all these years and you go, oh, I remember listening to this. But I don't have the recording, unfortunately. It's just a memory. The first show I listened to was probably mid-1990, and it had Holy Smoke from Iron Maiden. So that's a good memory when they newly released their that single, Holy Smoke. And yeah, so that was a good memory, and that was I'm pretty sure that was the first track that was played on the radio. He always leaves the best songs to last, and you'll know why, and you'll hear them, and you know that they're really good songs. And so being in a 30-minute time slot is very short, but you know it's going to be good. 30 minutes is not long, so for a rock show that's 30 minutes long, yeah, it's something to grab hold of. And also you can play again and again, so you can find out a bit more about the band, because like I said, he's very informative. How are you? So yes, so something to look forward to when March comes, okay? And then once March is here, you'll hear the next set, which I think 1992, 1993. You won't believe it. You will not believe it. You know, everybody's, I'm sure, thinking, oh, come on, you don't have these recordings. You don't. No one's recorded these things. No one. No one in the world has recorded it. How can you possibly record this thing? How can you possibly set up the recorder and just record it? And back then there's no MP3 and whatever else. It's just tapes. So yeah, tapes. It's just the tapes. So yeah, 1993, then 1996, and I think 1998 is something like that. I think the last shows I had were probably 1996, I think, or 98, and I never heard from Tommy ever again. And it was the last rock show I heard on Virgin. I think I found out once that it was on Virgin Radio, and I really wanted to tune in, and I couldn't find the time, or I was either too busy, you know, with my lifestyle and everything else around here. But I did, would you believe it? The time I did think about Tommy Vance, I went onto the internet, and back then it was dial-up. Dial-up was slow and useless. So I had the dial-up. I had the dial-up internet on, the old computers, you know. And you find your page, and I found out, oh, there's Tommy Vance. He's on Friday. He's got his own Friday rock show again. Oh, it's Virgin Radio, and it's, of course, you know, the big Virgin Radio. Not too crash hot about Virgin Radio, but anyway. So Virgin Radio, and there's Tommy Vance, and there's the rock show, and it's coming up. So the show wasn't on yet, but I was ready to listen to it, and I thought, look, great, I'm going to record this show. So this was going to be the first show that I was going to record from the internet, and I've never done anything like that before. Record something from the internet. Sounds a bit silly, doesn't it? So there I am, plugging the cassette player into the laptop computer, something like that. But it's recordable. Sometimes you'd lose the station because the signal's not great, or there's something wrong. So you know, like many years ago in the 90s, when you downloaded a song and you had dial-up, it would take one day, almost a day. And I remember recording some music back then, and I think I wanted to make an album of something. I can't remember. It's years ago now. And it took literally 2 weeks, I think, to download all the songs and to carry the songs on from where I left off. You know, sometimes you go in a day, you go halfway through and you need to go out and do something, and then you carry on. So it would take literally a day to record some songs. So anyway, going back to the dial-up internet with Tommy Vance, I did record the show, and although it was a show, I thought that it was odd because he wasn't there, and I wasn't aware that something happened until I did read the headlines on the internet. I think it could have been the night before, I can't remember, or that week. I think I read